Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Medicinal Monday. I'm Dr. Susanna.
And I'm Dr. Benjamin.
And we're both naturopathic doctors who support individuals in reversing disease and reclaiming optimal health through whole food plant-based nutrition and mind-body medicine.
So today we're talking about the very important topic of changing habits, because that's really what health is all about, is creating healthy habits. And it's funny because whenever someone is talking to me about eating cheese or smoking cigarettes or drinking beer, whatever it is, I'm always like, well, that's just a habit, and everything that we do is just a habit. Now, a lot of times they really seem like big and sticky habits and really difficult habits and addictions even. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, it's just a habit, and we can create new ones. That's what we do all the time, whether we're mindful of it or not. So we're going to be talking all about habits and how to change them for good. But before we do, we got a couple of announcements.
Yes. So next week in our plant-based and stress-free Facebook group, we'll be we won't be hosting it in the plant-based and stress-free Facebook group. We'll be hosting it on a Zoom call.
Oh.
But I know we're live here in our Facebook group, and so this is where, the registration will certainly be posted, but get to the point, Susanna.
Yeah, get to the point.
We will be hosting a stress-free Zoom event. What is that?
We haven't come up with a name yet, to be honest. I was just thinking 35 seconds ago, the Stress Less Symposium. But I don't really know what a symposium is. It just kind of rolled off my tongue. But in any case, yes, we're going to be talking about the stress-free portion of the plant-based and stress-free philosophy. Because we know if we're tuned in here, we know the importance of our mindset and the brain-body connection in impacting our moment-to-moment health and well-being. So we'll be talking all about that next week, and really it's an experience. So we're going to invite you all to kind of put down your pen and paper, put down your intellect, give it a rest, because believe it or not, that pen and paper, that intellect, those thoughts can be the very substance that can create stressful thinking.
Okay,
Stress-free Jamboree.
Yes, we had a recommendation. That is the best name, Stress-free Jamboree. We might just have to go with that one. But anyway, this is going to be a Zoom event that's happening a week from today. It's actually happening at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, so that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Zoom. So
to get more information, come on into the Plant-Based and Stress-Free Facebook group, and of course, our live listeners right now are already there. But without further ado, let's talk about habits and how to change them for good.
Yeah.
And what's on your mind, Dr. Susanna, as far as a place to start?
Well, I'm so glad that the community voted on this topic this week because, I see a lot. I interact with a lot of our group members here, and I hear from a lot of people like, oh yeah, I was really sticking with plant-based eating for a while, and then I just lost it. Life happened, and I just fell off the bandwagon, and I just didn't have enough willpower to stick with it. And that word willpower, let's talk about that word willpower, because in this call right here, right now, this episode, really what we're talking about is effortless. The effortless overcoming of habits without willpower. Because, willpower, it's so funny because when we think about it, the times we really call upon our willpower are usually the times when we are feeling like we have the least amount of power over ourselves, right? The least amount of control over ourselves. We're in a low place. We feel like we just want to reach to whatever creature comfort we can. And we call upon the willpower, and it's tough. It's tough, right? I'm curious to hear.
Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
It's not reliable, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And of course, our willpower is there. And a lot of people, like in our society, we've got this kind of built-in, thinking that, if only we had a little bit more willpower, then we'd all be better off. And we're presenting to you right now a completely contrary perspective to consider. What if you didn't have any willpower? And what if you didn't need any willpower because everything that you had was intrinsic and it just came naturally, and we didn't have to grab into our pockets to try to muster up anything to keep us moving? It was effortless. It was just intrinsic. It was just happening. We were just in the flow. And then, and then we kind of slip and fall, and we end up kind of leaning into the guardrail and bouncing back. And I like to imagine, a 4-year-old throwing a bowling ball down the bowling alley lane, and those like big bumper gutters that just, it doesn't matter how bad of a bowler you are. It's like if you got the guardrails on and you're using them, then we're going to end up with the ball at the end of the lane, and we're going to knock down some pins. And the fact of the matter, those guardrails, those bumpers, they are there. They are there. That's what the universe is doing for us, supporting us. And what it looks like is biofeedback from our body, in the form of symptoms, a stomach ache, letting us know that didn't sit so well, a headache, letting us know we're a little dehydrated, low energy, letting us know that we need to go outside and breathe some fresh air. These kind of, simple biofeedback symptoms that we can experience and learn from and listen to are really important, as are the biofeedback from our soul, the soul feedback, as I might say, in the form of feelings, in the form of emotions, like how are we feeling? And these are just simply, feedback from our state of mind. Like, how are we doing? How are we caring for ourselves? And these aren't symptoms to manage. These aren't symptoms to fix. These aren't feelings to fix or feelings to manage or process or figure out. It's simply information. And why are we talking about this? Well, like if we learn how to use this information from our body, from our soul, then we can effortlessly stay on track. And there's no screwing up, because if we do, we can trust that our body is resilient, going to bounce back. Our soul or our mind or our emotional body is resilient, going to bounce back, just like we've got our physiologic immune system, like we love to talk about. We've got our psychologic immune system as well.
Yes. But yeah, let's just take a step back and imagine a scenario where you can visualize whatever kind of habit you might find yourself kind of coming back to again and again. Maybe it's emotional eating, maybe it's overeating, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's biting your nails, maybe it's binge watching TV. Whatever the habit is,
exercising.
There's so many habits we can take.
And it's funny how, what came to mind as you were listing these things, like we can classify them as good or bad. Like a lot of people, I changed my TV habit into an exercise habit. Or maybe you've got a treadmill in front of the TV. You do both at the same time. But in any case, these habits can be quote unquote good or bad, and they are just habits.
Yeah. And I'm not alone in this. I think a lot of us have these kind of relationships with these habits where it's like, okay, maybe I'll let myself have a little bit of that, but then, Susanna, need to stop. Bah, bah. That's like willpower. That's kind of self-control. And just imagine a scenario where the changes that you've been wanting to see in your behaviors, whether it's with food or with any other kind of activity, just kind of happened effortlessly. And it's funny because let's just go to the example of eating, because in this group I hear it a lot. Oh man, I just can't stick with it. Why can't I stick with it? My cravings, my this, my that. And it's like, we're sitting over here. We understand falling into a craving or a habit. We totally understand that. But for us, we'll just speak from where we're at with whole food plant-based eating. For us, there's absolutely no willpower at all that's involved with what we decide to put into our body on a daily basis, because the way that we fuel ourselves is coming from that intrinsic place of just peace and knowing and wisdom and understanding inside of this is what makes us feel good. So of course we want to eat this way. We're not even tempted by the cake or the chips or the whatever. And so the opportunity here is to really, consider, all right, like if we don't need willpower, then what are we then relying on in order to overcome these habits? And it's a much deeper thing than willpower.
So this is a great place to start, even though we're 10 minutes in. This is a great place to start, just in the open-minded consideration of a new reality. Because if we are stuck in the old reality of relying on willpower, falling on and off of the bandwagon, messing up and stubbing our feet and dragging our toes, or stubbing our toes, dragging our feet, whatever it is, if like that's what has been normal for us, then the only way to create a new and more self-serving normal is to have an open mind for that reality. So I think like what you're talking about here, Dr. Susanna, and just like consider another way. Like in order to break free from where we've been, that's got to be step numero uno. Consider there is another way. And there is. We're confident of that. We've experienced that ourselves, and we witness people experience a new alternative reality. So there is another way. That's kind of the step number one, if there was a step, is just be open to this habit that you have had. Okay, you've had it. Maybe it's been a month, maybe it's been a year, maybe it's been 50 years. You've had it. Now, we know that, like I started this conversation off with, it's just a habit. And it doesn't matter how long it's been with you. It's never too late to say, okay, let's create a new one. And I think an important, like maybe the next place we can go, Dr. Susanna, after considering that new possibility of a new reality where we're no longer reliant on willpower, the next thing I'd like to talk about is just understanding the innocence of the so-called bad habits. And the choosing the potato chips or the cookies as a way to feel good, as a way to put calories into our body, as a way to, fuel ourselves. And of course, we know that we intellectually understand that there are better options. But we also have probably all shared the experience of having that, like giving into that craving and feeling better. Like we feel better after we let ourselves do that, because the craving is the solution to the negative so-called quote unquote bad feeling or bad state of mind or insecurity. The craving and the behavior and the acting out on the craving and the binge or the drink or the cigarette or the drug or whatever it is, whatever the habit is, that is our best solution that we have in the moment to our innocent low mood, innocent low state of mind, innocent insecurity. And so I guess like where I'm getting at is like the first thing we're talking about, just being open to a new reality, open to the consideration of a new reality exists. And then when we see what habits truly are, point number 2 is just letting ourselves off the hook, having some deeper understanding and self-compassion for the choices that we make and do make and have made in the past and do make in the future, knowing that we're doing our best. And yeah, our best looked different yesterday. Our best will look different right now, and it'll be different, 10 minutes from now. But we're always doing our best, and just giving ourselves a little bit of space to grow and learn is so helpful.
Yeah. This second point is really, really important. Really understanding what habits are. And I really want to just emphasize again that word innocently, because, I think it's so easy for us to judge ourselves and judge other people for their habits, for their bad habits. Oh, so-and-so's been having that habit for years. So-and-so, oh, I just can't kick this habit. But like you said, Dr. Ben, all habits are coming from that innocent place inside of wanting to feel better, wanting to somehow, feel something different, whether we're numbing ourselves. Because let's face it, a lot of us, all of us, we face low moods from time to time. We might face sadness. We might face anger, anxiety, or frustration. And the way that feels in the body for a lot of people is really uncomfortable. So, whether we can make ourselves feel a little bit better, distract ourselves with this TV or this donut or this cigarette, once again, it's coming from that innocent place of wanting to feel better.
Yeah.
But from this understanding, it's like that's okay that we do that innocently, but intellectually we all know that for the long term of our health and well-being, we don't want to perpetuate these types of habits, right?
So what do we do?
Well,
I love, can I reference a beautiful comment that came in live? My husband brought in some Pringle chips last night. I don't even like them, but ate a few anyway. What's wrong with me? And then the next sentence, but I just went back to plant-based with a smoothie and veggies. And to answer the question, there's nothing wrong with you. And I think you're getting at that yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. You've got the intrinsic wisdom, and yeah, you can have the chocolate chip cookie and, maybe it tastes good, maybe it doesn't. A lot of people, after they kind of clean up taste buds and rebalance neurochemistry, the hyper palatable processed junk foods that used to rule them, no longer, like, it just doesn't even, you taste the chemicals, you taste the junk, you taste the crap. So that's good. That's always a good sign. And then if you did, if the Pringle did satisfy something and you did eat the whole tube or whatever they come in, and then, maybe you went out to the store the next day and were like, those Pringles were good, I'm going to get another tube. There still wouldn't be anything wrong with you. There still wouldn't. And for people who have had a taste of what I would say optimal health, authentic health, true health, what naturally comes from whole food plant-based eating in our experience, then those people are generally set, because they might go back to a Pringle or a chocolate chip cookie or a Dairy Queen something, on an occasion, but their body has like a gravitational force back to health. That is for sure the case when we let ourselves off the hook and once again be more compassionate and understanding with ourselves. Because what I like to say is, what's worse than an extra large French fry and milkshake is an extra large French fry and milkshake with an extra side of self-judgment, and that kind of just makes everything a little bit more messy, not to mention the effects that it has on our physiology.
Yeah, so back to that question of, okay, so now what do we do with it? Well, my response to that would be the first step is to see that, when we're tempted to give into these habits, really what it is, it's a message from within. It's a message from the body saying, hey, Susanna, look at your state of mind. Look where your mind is right now. 10 times out of 10, when I'm craving, for me it's like a TV show. That's my habit. That's my way of escaping, is like a TV show. 10 times out of 10, if I'm really craving a TV show, I'm in a low state of mind. I'm feeling low. I'm feeling anxiety. Yeah. Well, not, I mean, maybe not 10 times out of 10.
Last night we were kind of pooped after a long weekend, and yeah, it was coming from a different place. We watched a movie. We like to watch movies. There's nothing wrong with watching a movie.
Well, that was coming from a different place.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it you know, and I'm sure sometimes maybe your TV show desire comes from a different place.
Yes. So maybe not 10 times out of 10. But
Yeah.
if I find myself in the habit of, wanting to watch another show, it's like, okay, well, where's your mind at, Susanna? What are you trying to escape from? What feeling are you trying to escape from? And so the first thing is understanding of, when we're given into those habits, it's a barometer. It's like, hey, okay, look where your mind is. That's step one. And then I would say from there, the second big thing to understand is that within each and every one of us, we've got this intrinsic wisdom. And this is what Dr. Ben was talking about earlier with the bumper lanes.
Wait, so can we just recap?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm a little lost. So, step number one, not that we're needing to go over steps, but like point number one for me and knowing and understanding and being on board here is just being open to a new reality. Point number two is letting yourself off the hook when we slip and fall and drag our feet and stub our toes and quote unquote make a mistake or fall off the bandwagon. Because what's worse than a milkshake is a milkshake with extra guilt and judgment. And what's the third point that you're bringing up is
the third point
trusting
is,
the
no.
Okay.
The third point is look at where your mind is. Look at your state of mind.
So quote unquote mindfulness, mindful self-awareness. Not that people talk about mindfulness all the time and like ways to be more mindful. But yes, what I hear you saying, Dr. Susanna, is you're already mindful. We're already mindful. We're born mindful. We're born meditating. We're born meditative. And there's nothing that we need to do to get back to that. But being aware of where our state of mind is really helpful and valuable so that we know, I'm innocently choosing this because this is where my mind is. Mm-hmm. And then we can notice that and have an understanding and experience that, 100% of the time, the nature of my thoughts shifts and changes, whether or not I do something, whether or not I eat the Pringles, whether or not I watch the TV show, my thoughts shift. So yeah, I can watch the TV show, I can eat the Pringles, I can have the cupcake, but that's the state of my mind is going to be shifting regardless of what I do and what I put in my body. So once we do that, then it's like, maybe I won't put the cupcake in my pie hole. Maybe I won't, sit myself down and watch binge watch 4 episodes. Maybe I'll just kind of see where my thoughts naturally go without that. But, and I think that this is like the exclamation point, when we do slip and fall, back to, I guess it was point number 2, or something, when we do mess up, like, because we all do, because we're all human, and being human is an imperfect journey. But when we do, that's just another opportunity to be self-loving and compassionate and understanding. And try again, knowing that there's no perfection, knowing that we're never going to be walking the tightrope perfectly. We're always going to be swinging in the wind, and maybe we'll fall off, but the universe is there to catch us and support us.
Yeah. So, I guess to make sense in my head, point number 4 is
what was 3?
Well, okay, 3 was that when you feel yourself leaning towards that habit, it's an indicator. It's like check engine light.
Yeah.
Hey, look what's going on in the mind.
Okay, cool.
Okay, then after you look in, what's going on in the mind, if you catch yourself in anxious thinking, sad thinking, whatever thinking, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that's okay.
Point number one is consider a new reality. Point number 2 is is that was point number 2, right? Like, be compassionate with yourself. Let yourself off the hook. Point number 3 is check the check engine light. Mind the check engine light. Listen to the biofeedback from body and mind. And point number 4 is don't forget to be compassionate with yourself again, regardless of what you do after you check the check engine light.
But let's just hit that point home a little bit more. Remember, when we feel low, I know we're at the top of the hour, but we need to tie this up with a nice pretty bow.
That's what I was trying to do with the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing.
I know, but just remember, and this is going to be touched upon in much greater depth in next week's live stressless jamboree or stress-free jamboree, that as human beings, we're going to feel emotions. We're going to. It's built into us. And that's okay. The more we're okay with feeling our feelings, the less we tend to numb them with our habits. And that goes back to a beautiful quote from one of our teachers, Sydney Banks. If the only thing people learned was to not be afraid of their human experience, that alone would change the world. That alone would be enough for all the addictions to be a thing of the past. That would be enough to end, the violence. It would be enough. It would be a totally different world if we were all just okay with feeling our human experience. So that's what I'd like to end on.
That's a good place to end. You can't argue with good old Sid Banks. So hopefully that wasn't too much like intellectualizing something that's really common sense and intrinsic in us all. But I think maybe for some people, intellectually understanding something is maybe a first step to more deeply experientially understanding something. So in any case, we appreciate you for cruising with us in another Medicinal Monday episode. And yes, this is kind of a sneak peek, kind of a little taster of what we'll be talking about more when we talk about stressing less, or stressing free, or being more
stressing free,
or being more sensitive to stress. That's another kind of goal.
And being more accepting of the sensations of stress.
So, hopefully everyone's feeling stress-free right now, and you're not wrapped up in something that you can drop, because if you are, you can always drop it. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you for showing up for yourself, for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next time in next week's Medicinal Monday.
Bye for now.
Peace and love.